I'd give my all to make it live. You'll never know how much I'd give if I could only win your love.
Emmylou Harris is a country singer and guitarist and songwriter from Birmingham, as in Birmingham, Alabama. She's been active since 1969. Her first album apparently was folk, but she's been country since then, and she's still going. She's had lots of albums and loads of awards. Hi, my name's Dan, and I just want to say whoop, whoop. That's because this is the 900th exactly review off my list that I'm working through. 900 reviews, and I'm 30% of the way through my list. So there's quite a long way still to go, but we're hitting the milestones occasionally, and heading the next 100 done will see me at 1,000, which will be only exactly a third of the way through. Right, let's put the celebration aside and actually do the review. So this is the second studio album by Emmylou Harris. It's her major label debut, and it's my first time listening to this album. It is by no means my first encounter with her. This is the third album of hers that is on my list. So the previous two were Elite Hotel, which actually in terms of releases is the next album after this, and I gave that a 6.5 and complained it was too country. And the next, the other one is Luxury Liner, which was the next album after Elite Hotel. And I gave that a 6.5, and I complained that he was too country. And you've probably seen the score for this. I'm giving it quite a bit higher score. So I don't know if it's being helpful that I'm trying not to react to country just because it is. But I do think, I haven't gone back and listened to the other two as a comparison, but I do think that this is less problematically country for me as a comparison. Let's actually just talk about this album on its own merits, though. So this is, I would definitely categorize this as being singer-songwriter, but with a strong country leanings, but it's not all full-on country. It's got more variety than that. It's got, country sounds like pedal steel and things like violin and stuff, and bass lines that go boom, boom, which is very characteristic. There are bits that sound kind of more honky-tonky, so upbeat as well. But then there's other things in here, like 70s sounds like electric piano and things coming in, and more folky elements like, is it called Before Believing, which is, which is highly using an acoustic guitar. Musically, actually, I found it quite acceptable. So sometimes I found country music. So let's go through the three things that I think are my objections to country. The first one is musically, and particularly an overuse of pedal steel guitars, but also a very kind of formulaic musical feel to it. And I have found that I like faster country much better than I like slow country. The second one is voices. And I have complained about country voices in the past if they're too nasal. I'm growing additions to that thought that sometimes, particularly male country singers, I find them a bit smug. So I have come across male country singers who are somewhat nasal but aren't as smug in just the way their voice sounds. So that's okay. And then the third one is emotional content, and this is the one that really gets my back up, is when I feel like the songs are trying to make me cry so hard. So I very often pull out songs like Deck of Cards and No Charge here as songs that really have that kind of overblown emotional content. So I'll refer back to these three things as we go through. So there are pedal steel stuff in here, but sometimes you get on country, you get kind of fiddle stuff, and I like that. Banjo, and I like that. Mandolin, I like that. Because most of the instruments for country, actually, I quite like. I guess there's, as I said, more folky elements, and musically, it was fine. At times, it reminded me actually of the feel of James Taylor of a similar time, who I really like. most of these are kind of ballady story songs in content. I'll come back to the content in a minute. I'm going to talk about the voice. So first of all, she doesn't have a nasal voice. And I think it's mostly for male singers that I have that objection. She has got what I think of as being an impossibly pretty voice. It's so pretty that it's almost slightly painful in this. And I have similar feelings about Olivia Newton-John, and I think they've got very similar voices. It's just kind of it's beautiful. It's very accurate. It's very expressive, but it's got a kind of sweetness to it that is good, but it's almost too good. And I'm not really sure I'm articulating that very well, but it's like I don't know. It's like an iced Belgian bun that's just a bit too sweet, or a beautiful view that's just slightly somehow too beautiful. It's like it should be turned into a jigsaw or something, but it's somehow not quite believable. So it's a good verse though, and she uses it well, and a lot of people have commented on how good her voice is, and it is a really good voice. And so we're going to come to the songs. Most of these are not this kind of overcooked emotionality, except for one, which is leaves me in a bit of a dilemma because that one is Coat of Many Colours, which is a Dolly Parton song, and it's a song that I know quite well. Um, because Dolly is one of the cracks in my anti-country armour. I let her in. I really like Dolly Parton. I know I'm not alone here. So this version, Emmylou Harris's version, is a decent version, but for me, it's not as good as Dolly's. And I think it's down to these to the voices and how I react to Dolly's voice, which is partly because I know some stuff about her and she's just an amazing person, but also because somehow her voice sells the emotional content as being genuine and as not as being manipulative in the same way that I feel like some are. Incidentally, this is also one of the reasons why I like James Taylor. It feels like he can sing things that are really cheesy, but he sells it in a way with his voice that makes it feel genuine and believable. And Dolly is like that. So, unfortunately, this means that for me, this version, Emmylou Harris, is just a little bit pushing the emotionality a bit too much because she doesn't have the luxury of that selling quality that Dolly has. It is, I mean, it's an interesting song, and it is kind of a reminiscent and a bit kind of emotional, but it doesn't have a kind of a denouement that some of the overly emotional songs have. Which again makes it slightly better. The, However, the song that I'm least convinced by on this album is "Tonight the Bottle Let Me Down," which is a Merle Haggard song, which is just delivered in a jolly and sweet way, and the lyrics for it are not jolly and sweet. I don't think it works in this in this rendition. I quite like Boulder to Birmingham as a track on here, which has got the kind of obligatory bit of Christian message stuff to it. Feel like at this point in time, you couldn't be a country singer without having an obligatory God song on your album. Also, I quite like For No One, which is a cover of a Beatles song, and it feels like the least country song on the album. It's just got a really nice chord sequence to it that I enjoy. So overall, actually, I enjoyed it quite a bit. There's some good musicianship. There's some really beautiful singing. It's a gentle album. It's got a nice feel to it. There are occasional bits of kind of irritation, just a little bit too countryness, but not as much, obviously, as I had on the other two albums of hers so far that I've reviewed. Is this because I'm mellowing towards country, or is it because it is less country than the next two albums she released? I don't really know, but I suspect it's a bit of both. So that's what I think of this album. And as always, I'd love to get you to share what you think of this album and to celebrate with me if you want anything to say about the fact that we're now 30% of the way through this list. If you've been with me for a while now, please do stay with me as I try and plough through more of this list. That's it from me for now.
The day breaks, your mind aches. You find that all